Hi and good afternoon. My name is Brett Grossman. I'm a top leader with Freedom Financial Solutions. And today's video, what I'd like to do for you here today is give you some language, some insights, and some ideas that you can use when actually sitting with a client in the home, and what's allowed me over the last 6 years to take well over 600 applications in a home. And it all comes down to posture, language, how you follow up, and how you keep your persistency rate high. And I'm going to touch on that at the end. But one of the things that I like to do, and if you don't have a pen and paper handy, I highly suggest that you grab something to write with. You're really going to want to write down a lot of what I'm going to give you here verbatim, word by word. A lot of times scripts are great, but when it comes to closing in the home, which is most important, which is solidifying and getting everyone on the same page, this is what's going to make you a lot of money. And so one of the things that I like to do when I'm starting to close out after my 3-option close, and there's a video here on the Freedom Financial Solutions group page where I did a video on how to do a 3-option close. This is the transition into that. And what I like to do is I like to tell Bob and Mary, or just Bob or just Mary, depending upon who I'm sitting with, and I like to say this. Now that we figured out which option makes the most sense, let me explain to you how this process works. Number one, as a field underwriter, I've done all I can do up until this point here for you today. What we're going to do, listen to the key words. What we're going to need to do now is we are going to need to get it into the hands of the actual in-house underwriter, and what they're going to do is they're going to cross-reference all the answers that you gave me to the medical questions. They're going to cross-reference that to the MIB report, which is the Medical Information Bureau report. They're also going to cross-reference your prescription check, just to make sure that nothing was filled here within the last 5 years that we didn't think of as we're sitting here today. Now, normally the underwriting process can take 3 to 5 business days. Seeing as though you are super healthy, no prescription history, the only time you go to the doctors for a checkup, I could assure you that your underwriting process might go through a lot faster than that. So here's what I'll do for you today. What I'll do for you here today is I will put together what's called an electronic application. I'm going to take out my computer, I'll fire it up. Here's what I'm going to need for you. What I'm going to need from you here today is I'm going to need your driver's license, your doctor's name, address, and phone number, and if they are taking any prescription medications, you want to ask them to go ahead and get those prescription medications. Now I'm going to stop right there. What we define as a non-medical privilege, and I'm talking to you folks right here in the group right now, I'm actually doing the example. What I'm going to tell you is you can use this language right here. We define this as what's called a non-medical privilege. A fully underwritten application is a little bit different. That comes with a paramed. That is when the nurse will come out, she'll draw your blood, she'll do a urine sample, sometimes they do a mouth swab, they'll even take a hair follicle. We don't do anything like that unless absolutely necessary or unless it's requested by the actual client and they're dead set on it. We do what's called a non-medical privilege. Feel free to write that down. Use that language in the home when explaining the process. Bob and Mary, what we're going to do for you here today is what we define as what's called a non-medical privilege. And then you go into that transition that I just gave you. It's very rare if you have the correct posture, if you've been able to educate them throughout the process of explaining to them what mortgage protection is and how different it is from traditional life insurance, and now you've educated them on that. You've educated them on what life insurance is meant to do and what we do. You've also asked them the questions in the home. You've asked them questions like, do you have 6 to 8 months of reserves? Do you have 12 months of reserves? Bob, if something happened to Mary and she was to become medically ill and couldn't show up to work, are you able to handle the mortgage? Are you able to handle the bills, the groceries, the kids' school, all the costs that go into operating your household? Can you do this by yourself? Most times they can't. Switch the question over to Mary. Mary, same for you. Let's say Bob's unable to go back to work because of a sudden stroke that was unexpected. Are you able to handle all the expenses of running this house? And then allow them to speak and allow them to talk, okay? And that's just an example. And then what you're going to do is you're obviously going to ask some medical questions. You're going to show them the 3 options, which I taught you earlier. And then you're going to transition into that close. And what I do is after I get done explaining how the underwriting process goes, I literally reach into my briefcase and I pull out my laptop. And at that point, Bob and Mary are already up from the table and they are looking for their driver's license in their wallet. They're looking for prescriptions, things of that nature. And so again, if you've handled all the objections earlier in the interview, you won't have any objections when it comes to closing out the deal. If you notice, there's one thing that I didn't ask them to get, and I didn't ask them to get their checkbook. And the reason I didn't is because this comes a little bit later in the digital signature process. And so once they're out there doing that, I will then flip out my laptop, and I will begin to take their application. I will begin to put it into the system. They have now sat back down with me. I have everything I need: social, birth date, income, how long they've worked there, what their job title is, all that fantastic stuff as you go through the application. I personally like to use the Forrester's Strong Foundation product. I use it for about 99% of my applications. Over the last 90 days, I've written well over about 50 applications for a lot of premium, and 9 times out of 10, I'm going with that Forrester Strong Foundation. So, with all that being said, how do we get into getting their checking information? Well, once you are going through the application process, there's normally a couple more medical questions that you may not have asked, in the process. And so I like to just get a little bit more diligent, and I'll go through a little bit more of the specifics so that I can actually show them it's not going to be just so easy. Again, everyone wants to buy because everybody wants what they can't have. And so I don't make it such a layup that they can just, come and sit down with me and just be able to get this insurance la-di-da. I make it a little bit like, hey, listen, we're going to have to maybe put a magnifying glass on this thing. I know you're healthy, but let's put a magnifying glass on this just to make sure that this is something that's going to go through. Because they understand the value of mortgage protection, knowing that there's going to be income involved in the event that something unexpected was to happen. And so at some point during the interview process, while taking the application, I will then say to them, this is very important, I will then say to them, okay, now let me ask you this. This application will go through, today is Wednesday. This application will hit the underwriter, let's say tomorrow on Thursday. And let's say it's underwritten on Friday and it gets approved. Well, that means it would get issued on Monday. When it gets issued, it will become activated. That means that you automatically will have coverage that day. They will also take the first premium that day. Are you okay with that? Most people are okay with that. Every once in a while, you'll get somebody who says, nope, it's got to come out on the 15th of the month. This is when I pay the bills. It's got to come on the 1st. It's got to come on the 28th. They'll give you a specific day. If that's the case, one more time, I want you to say to them, totally understand, and we can definitely make that happen. But let me ask you, is it okay if the first one to activate the policy comes out, let's say next week? And let's say next week is the 1st of the month. And I know you want it to come out on the 15th. It'll get activated on the 1st, and then we can call the carrier and ask them to switch it, the draft date, to the 15th for all subsequent premiums moving forward. So ask it one more time. If they're okay with it, continue to move through the process. I'll show you what to do. If they're still steadfast on, nope, it's got to come out on a specific date, don't argue, okay? Just say okay, and then click the button on the application that says the 15th. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because we're in the business of making money. And when you're in the business of making money and making sure that people don't have second thoughts, buyer's remorse, the number one way to do that is to get it activated and get it approved right away, because then it becomes real. And when it becomes real, believe it or not, they like that. They like the fact that they were able to pay for something, that they have that covered, that it's in force now. Because what happens is, if that draft date is until the 15th, and let's say today's the 17th, then you're talking about close to 30, almost 30 days that it gives them time to maybe have somebody else come out. Maybe it gives them time to change their mind. Who knows? So it's better to do it right away. Plus, if there's no draft date and it gets issued and activated, you, the agent, are then paid within 24 to 48 hours depending upon your bank. That's why we're in the business of making money. So it becomes twofold. All right, so let's go back and I'll kind of walk you through it one more time. After I ask about the draft date, and let's say it's the opposite. Let's say no, they're like, oh sure, no problem. Yeah, no, it can come out today, it can come out tomorrow, no problem. Okay, great. Here's what I do next. Now, what's the name of your bank? PNC Bank. What's the routing number? And literally, you'll watch people go, oh, you know, I don't, and they'll literally get up, they'll go grab their purse, they'll go grab the checkbook, they'll come back. Always ask them if you can see it. Here's why. No, two reasons. Number one, you want to make sure you're getting the correct routing and account number, because if they're reading it aloud to you, and let's say they skip a number, just whatever, and that routing number or account number doesn't go through, that'll reversal will happen when they go to activate it. You don't want that. So make sure you have that in front of you. Okay? Number two is, when you're taking the application, a lot of times it asks you for it twice. So it's going to ask you for the routing number twice, and it asks you for the account number twice. So which means instead of having the person sit there and stand there and say it one time after another, especially if you're doing a husband and wife couple, you got to go through that whole process over and over again. Make life easier on yourself, have it there in front of you, and then hand it back to them when you're finished. Okay? And so that is exactly how you can retrieve the banking information and get them to be be tied in with you to want to do that application. Again, you're handing all the objections up front. You're having posture. You're letting them know that this is what we're doing. You're not ever asking. And then you're walking them through the process step by step on what's going to happen. Now, how I cool everything down at the end of that is I will then actually tell them, now what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to give you a call here within the next 48 hours. So if today is Wednesday, I'm calling you Friday. If it's Friday, I may not call Sunday, but I'll call you on Monday, or I'll even maybe sometimes, because I know that maybe it may not be an approval by Monday, I may just say, hey, listen, how about I call you after hours on Monday if I call you after 6:30? And my conversations either go one or two ways, and this is how you keep your persistency high. Number one, the conversation goes like this. Hi, Bob. Hi, Mary. Congratulations. Your applications were approved. They are going to be activated and issued on such and such date. The second conversation you're going to have is you're going to say, hello, Bob. Hello, Mary. I'm giving you a call here just like I told you I would. Right now, your application is still in the hands of the underwriter. I don't have an update yet or result. I just know that they're taking a look at it, and I will give you a call back here in the next day or two once I know more. That's it. That's how those phone calls go. That's one way to keep your persistency up, okay? Is if you say you're going to do something, do it and follow through. If you schedule a time that you say you're going to call them, bam, call them at that time. Monday at 5, Wednesday at 7, whatever that time might be. Be a woman and a man of your word and follow up when you say you're going to follow up, okay? Because everything that you're showing them throughout the process, right, they're trusting in you. They're giving you all their account information, their social, their birthday. They just met you within the last 45 minutes. They're trusting in you that you are going to do right by them, and it is your job and your duty to do right by them and to do right for yourself, to have that type of integrity and character excuse me, when operating as a business owner. And so that's one way. The other thing is I like to do a card. Excuse me. I like to do a card. And I've signed up. I'm a customer of a company called Send Out Cards. And what I do is, the day I take the application, I actually go back to my computer. It takes less than a minute. And I click on a card catalog. I click on a card. And I write a nice little note. Bob and Mary, it was great to meet you on Wednesday. I'm glad I was able to assist in your mortgage protection. Want you folks to have a fantastic summer 2017. Brett Grossman, my phone number, and then it comes on a postcard. It costs me about 30 cents, and I click OK, I click send, and then bam, it gets sent out the very next day. If it's before 2 p.m., it'll be sent out that day. If it's after 2 o'clock, it'll get sent out that next day. A lot of times, they actually receive that postcard. They'll get it sometimes before I actually call them within 48 hours. Because if it's a morning appointment and then I send out the card, sometimes they get that card before I even call, and I've gotten set. Thank you so much. I can't remember the last time somebody took the time to send me a card in the mail. People appreciate it. They stick it on the refrigerator with your business card. It can generate more referrals for you. These are some key tips to help you solidify the sale, make the process go very smoothly, and also keep your client on the books and generate more referrals. Hope that was helpful. Everybody have a great week. Look forward to seeing you again soon.